What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Save Point Podcast, Episode 8. I am one of your hosts, Alex, and I'm joined, as always, by Sway. Oh boy, we are here, buddy, with quite the week. Now, it's odd, or it's hard, because, we've talked quite a bit right before we recorded this video. We've been doing some stuff, but we're also, when we're recording this, it's before Dead Space, it's before SpongeBob, it's before Hogwarts Legacy, so there's only so many things to talk about, but there is quite a few. So I think what we'll do, you've played quite a bit about Fire Emblem, so we're going to, that's going to be a major thing. We'll talk a little bit about Forspoken and maybe by the time the video goes up, Dead Space will already be out, so maybe some last thoughts on Dead Space, SpongeBob, Hogwarts, stuff like that. But these games are finally out. Let's hear about Fire Emblem. We previewed it. The video did good. I think last week's was actually, it dethroned it, so that was our third best video. But how are you liking Fire Emblem?
Loving it. For those out there, I know recently on the podcast, I told you about my process of going through TRPGs and how I normally just knock them out over the course of time. I have already put more hours into this game than Midnight Suns. I am on chapter 14 of 26, and that includes the 26 chapters does not include the side missions.
Yeah.
But I've done the side missions on top of 14 chapters. So
is that that's consumed all your free time? You just pick it up?
Yep, I've taken it with me to work. I have come home and played. I have played it on the TV. Oh my god, it looks beautiful when you play it on TV. I've spent most of my time playing on handheld. I didn't expect to really love this game, and I think what it is the weapon wheel coming back. It just made the combat more I didn't realize how much I missed it.
Yeah.
So I think that weapon wheel being there for me, I think really solidified my addiction to the play loop. And so a week ago, I would have told you, in fact I did tell you, that I would not finish this game for a few months.
Yes.
If I keep going at it the way that I'm going at it, I'm going to finish it before Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
So,
but now will SpongeBob and Dead Space slow you? Or I forget, where are you on Dead Space? I know you're getting SpongeBob.
Dead Space, I'm not getting day one. SpongeBob, I am going to get day one. However, if I'll get to it day one, if I'm once again going at Fire Emblem the way that I am. So yeah, SpongeBob, I could probably knock SpongeBob out in probably 2 days. If I give it a real good go, I'll probably knock it out for 2 days. So I'm going to give it the old college try. And plus, Fire Emblem, I'm not scared to put it down. So it's totally a possibility that I can pick up SpongeBob, beat it, come back to Fire Emblem. If I beat both games before Hogwarts Legacy, I need props.
Yeah.
How about you, man? What you been playing?
So it's been just one of them, I can't say, but it's been several. I actually, when we talked about this before, I forgot to bring up Persona. I did play Persona 3 for about 3.5 hours, and it is going to be the game I, kind of predicted it would be. It's just going to be that game that when I have time, I'm going to go back. So it's going to take so long. I expect it to take months just because, you're playing Forspoken, Hi-Fi Rush, which, oh my dear God. And then there'll be Dead Space and SpongeBob and Hogwarts. So I can't imagine. And even after Hogwarts is Atomic Heart, I don't know where Persona 3 fits. Also, to be really positive on it, but also to be a little critical, Persona 5 is incredible. Persona 3 is good. It takes a while. I still don't even think I'm at that point yet where it's okay, this is a legit, legitly good or whatever. I was actually talking to somebody on Twitter about that where I'll have to look because he said, what's odd about Japanese games is it takes a while for them. And I don't know if that's true I've never really thought about it. It maybe is true. I was trying to think about Persona 5. Do Japanese games tend to take longer than average games to kind of get going? I think Personas do. I think Persona just across the board, any of them, takes a while. And so I will say I'm not at that point. The combat is just as good. These Japanese companies, even though this game was 2009, they know how to make good characters the first time you see them, their art style, the first couple lines of dialogue. You're okay, I love this character. They just know how to do that immediately. But we still haven't gotten to the the meat of it yet. So I did that. I did Forspoken a couple days. We'll talk about we can go into, you and I were just talking about it before. It's really not that bad. The issue I would say with Forspoken, and I do want to do like a full-on, after I play like a lot of it, I'll do a video on it. But the issue with it is, compared against itself, it's not that bad. I think a lot of the most extreme negatives of this game I don't agree with. I don't want to say they're overblown, because I do think people could see it. But I just don't necessarily agree. I don't think it's that bad. The issue is the price. The issue is the release. Would I pay, to be biased, I mean, they gave me the code. I got it for free. Would I pay $70 for it? Probably not. Would I pay $70 for it now when I got Dead Space, SpongeBob, Hogwarts? No. You know what I mean?
I'm proof of that.
And even Hi-Fi Rush, because actually that is the proof. Hi-Fi Rush, right, came out the day after, right? It was on the Xbox Direct. And, I mean, we're talking about it obviously being closer to it than when the video goes up. But I was playing Forspoken, and I'm having moderate fun, and I will 100% go back to it. But what makes my own point for me kind of live is, as soon as Hi-Fi Rush gets announced, and it looks phenomenal, I immediately played it. I dropped Forspoken for another game. And even though it's a really good game, and probably better than, most games, I still dropped Forspoken. If Forspoken was better, I guess, not good, if it was better, then you know what I mean? Then that would be the game to dethrone. The issue is what we talked about last week. It's the game that gets dethroned. It's the game that gets put down for Dead Space, for SpongeBob, for Hogwarts. It's not the game that you say, okay, wait, I'm stopping everything to play Forspoken. And that, to me, I mean, that's the issue with it. Compared against itself, just a review of the game, it's really not that bad. But if you then broaden, and it depends on what kind of gamer you are, if you're into other games, then the game starts to get a lot weaker. How does that sound to you?
I think Forspoken has full clarity. I have not played Forspoken yet. I have only watched about halfway through a game movie where it basically shows you the gameplay walkthrough with the cutscenes and everything like that. And it doesn't look that bad to me at all either. Is it the most polished thing you've ever seen? Far from it. But I think that Forspoken, and we've mentioned this before, it is a brand new IP, and it is getting off the ground. I think that the best thing that people can do, instead of maybe harping on it and talking about how bad it is or anything like that, is just, it needs constructive criticism. Now we are in a time more than ever where we need new IPs. And so even if you're not going to say pay for the game, at least give it a watch. Give these companies the constructive criticism to say, hey, this is where I disconnected watching, or even those who are playing, obviously those are the ones playing, this is what I had trouble with like when I disconnected from the game playing it.
Yeah.
That's what you want to mention to the companies as far as criticism goes, because I look at Forspoken and I see a lot of good things that they can build off of. The story is not as bad as most people will have you out there believing, but it's also one of those things where it speaks back to the thing that we've both said since day one. Reviews don't matter. You have to think for yourself.
Yeah.
We've seen plenty of examples from it in the past. We've seen it with Gotham Knights. We've seen it with the Black Adam movie. We've seen it with the audience opinion is way different than what a critical opinion.
High on life.
And so and that's the same in life. And you have to think for yourself. That's part of being a leader. And I think that with Forspoken, I think it is a game that even people who watch it, you're going to have to go and play it. And that's one thing that I'm going to have to do.
Yeah.
Is going to have to play it so I can give my full critique of how it feels, because I can see it, but I can't feel it.
Yeah.
I played the demo. I did play the demo, but
it's so much better. It's so much better than the demo. That's a statement I would make crystal clear. And I think a lot of people, I saw that in comments. All other people say the demo turned me off, but the game is just well, even if you say give the game a 4 out of 10, it is miles better than that demo. I can't imagine somebody thinks the demo is better than the game. So to throw, but
That's what I was also seeing.
yeah, but you're right. Like the older I get, and I think I've always generally been this way. The older I get, if there's negatives, I like to try to be specific. I like to try to give myself that as a pro of myself, that when I bashed the devil in me, I'm not just telling you I hate the game. I said that. I hate this game. But I really nailed, let's go over some people. Let's go over some dialogue. Let's go over how the game functions. I don't want to be the guy. And is there anything wrong with it? Maybe not. Maybe it's some people's things to just bash. But like, I want to be the guy, especially as I get older, because as you get older, as you've been around longer, you tend to realize that obviously your opinion is not the only one. There's others. A game that you think is awful, there could be people that like it. And then you start to wonder, well, what are those reasons? Is there something in this bad game? And so, yeah, when I go after a bad game, I try to look. Let's talk about the specific things. You can still say it's bad, but let's give some examples of why it's bad. And for Forspoken, there's plenty. The engine needs to be chucked immediately. Okay, I've never seen a game take control away from you as much as this game. I don't know if you can see that in the cutscenes, but there's so many.
I've watched a few people play.
Yeah, there's pauses every, no joke, man, couple seconds. You'll walk, you'll get paused. And then also it does that really annoying thing where it'll do dialogue, but you can't move when the dialogue's happening. So even when like some sort of cutscene ends, or you'll move and it fades and then it comes back, you think you'd be able to kind of move while it's talking, and you have to stand still. And the shot's still. It pulls you out. I actually think Athia, right, is how you say it. I actually think it's pretty. It doesn't look good because of the engine, but I think like the idea of Athia and I don't remember what it's called, the break, like the basically zombifying people. I actually think that's a really cool. You mentioned new IP. I like that. I like and you know what? We got to remember where the idea for this game came from with Amy Hennig and Gary Whitta. You can kind of see it, right? It's more of the dialogue with characters that maybe is the issue. The idea of what Athia is, and it's split into these zones of leaders, and they got corrupted, and they're spreading the corruption. That's really clever. And those came from very good people, very talented people. You know what I mean? So you can tell where this game has its strengths. It's just very rough around the edges. There's some dialogue that goes on way too long. It pauses way too much. Things like that. I think that the combat's really good. I think the story is not. It's not great, but it's not bad. I think Frey isn't too bad. I know a lot of people really didn't like her, and not because of race things. I've seen other people. You see that kind of stuff. Some people are bringing it up that people don't like Frey because of it. It's like, no, I actually haven't seen that at all. I think people, have made it kind of clear. She's really not that bad. She's very negative. She doesn't want to be there. But I think the game in context gives you enough reason to explain. She's like, I've seen things like she keeps rejecting like being the savior. But like when you watch it or you're doing these cutscenes, I was doing a side quest with there's a side quest with this guy who takes you on a tour of like the main city, and he's so annoying. Actually, I would say that's kind of a negative of the game. He's just a suit, and it drags this side quest. But weirdly enough, it actually kind of makes Frey more likable because this guy is so annoying, and I don't know if that's purposeful. I actually can't tell you if it is. And by the end of it, he starts to tell people, there's like guards that stop them. And he tells, he tells the guards, hey, this is a person who saved you. She's our savior. And then Frey flips out and says, like, I'm not here to save you. I'm leaving. And I had seen that cutscene out of context on Twitter in terms of how unlikable she is, in terms of, she constantly is negative. But I actually kind of understand it in the moment because of the story mission that happened right before. Nobody talked about that. That actually is very important. And then also, again, I don't know if it's purposeful or not that this guy is annoying, but she has to go with this guy everywhere, and he keeps talking, he keeps kind of lecturing her, but also telling her how great she is, and she's simply saying, stop, I'm not what you think I am. And I actually think that's I actually really like that character moment. I don't know if her whole character's like that, but that one moment, I've seen it out of context, and I actually, unbiasedly, because I don't think the game's good. I actually think it would be, maybe average or below. But I think that scene is actually really good.
And it does, from what I've watched, it has a lot of powerful moments. And I think that one of the outside of the game movie, one thing I did watch was I think Alana Pierce is a good watch for her first hour because there I could see she's actively trying to move her controller, like I
Yep.
mean, move her character, and she can't.
The
And
first
she
hour
mentions that
stops you probably 15 times easily.
exactly. And she was saying like mentioning things like when she was listening to the dialogue, because I'd already watched past that point on just the game movie. So when
Yeah.
I went back and watched her gameplay of it to see what she thought, she mentioned that the disconnect for her with Frey was that she's a little bit too brash in certain moments. So it's like, for example, you picked up this bangle
Yeah.
and you were the one that initiated it by breaking in and picking up this bangle, and now you're into this
Yeah.
world. And this bangle is trying to help you, and you're being rude to this bangle for no reason.
Yeah. I did see
He's
people.
even
Yeah.
said that he's stuck to you and he can't move, he can't, leave you, and you can't leave him.
Yeah.
So you're both stuck together, and you're kind of lashing out on him for no reason. I guess that is a reason why, at least like when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that's probably a reason why I feel a little disconnected to her. But she also has, like you said, a lot of likable qualities. Like when she meets, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but like when she meets a guy that has been looked for,
Yes.
that's been missing, her compassion for him just to
Yeah.
make sure he's okay.
It's very Marvel. Like the Marvel dialogue thing, I do think is true.
Yes,
Let's just say Voosh, right? Because that's what they kept saying. But I kind of, I kind of was like, that's endearing. Like I kind of like that, and I like, is she 20, about to turn 21? I think some people were calling her like a teenager. I think she's 20. So she's a little, but she has like a kid. I think if you made her younger in game, it actually would maybe work better. Because I want to say she's 20 when you're in the court scene in the very beginning. You look down at her ID and stuff. I think it said age 20, and then obviously the judge is talking about she's just about to have her birthday. So I think if she was like 14, if she was like Ellie and she was talking the way she does, I think it'd be better. So I think she's just a little too old in how they did. But the girl who Ella, I don't even know if that's her name. The girl who's in Charlie's Angels, she's 26. So I don't know. You have a 26-year-old playing a 14-year-old, but you know what I mean. I think if she was just a little bit younger, because she is a little Ellie-like in terms of that, but I think she's too old. But it is Marvel dialogue, but it kind of, I'm not here to tell you it works or you need to like it because Marvel. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, you'll bash this game, but you like Marvel. I mean, I'm not even that huge of a Marvel, especially recently. God, no. I kind of just think it works for the game. I don't think it really is anything. I think it's influenced by Marvel-like dialogue, but I think you can kind of push Marvel away and say, does this way of them talking to each other work in this game? Yeah, it's kind of built like that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people talking about and I've said it before, I also, though, would take offense at the people that say, oh, you're getting mad at this game, but you like Kingdom Hearts or you like Uncharted. I saw some people say it's written like totally Uncharted. Different. Uncharted is sophisticated. Like, although I don't want to be too mean to Forspoken, to compare its writing to Uncharted is laughable. And even Kingdom Hearts,
the dialogue is completely different. The tone of the dialogue is completely different. Even Kingdom of Hearts, Kingdom Hearts, it's the dialogue once again. It's totally different. Yeah. Like you look at her.
I do think Kingdom Hearts has similar. If you look at Kingdom Hearts, just kind of brush over it. If you don't really watch, yeah, you can find clips there where it's kind of like, oh, this is a really cringy, and people are spreading kind of weird lines. But the one line of Sora and Riku, that's the ending of the game. That's a whole game building up to that moment. It's not so cringy when you know the context. So I will say, I've mentioned that in a live stream, I take offense at both sides. I think some people are being too harsh, but then also people that are overly because you'll get that. I mean, we've talked about that, right? You'll have people that super attack it, maybe without reason, and you'll have people that super defend it without reason. I hate both equally, because the people that super defend it, again, they're the ones comparing it, they're saying, "Oh, you love Kingdom Hearts." Well, this game is just the same thing. Don't you dare! Don't you dare compare Forspoken to Kingdom Hearts.
Don't you dare!
But it's like that. That's not okay either. It's not okay either because actually, then I think you're kind of throwing that game under the bus because I really don't think Forspoken is anywhere near as good as Kingdom Hearts. Let's be real, okay?
I would
that's
agree.
that's what I've seen over this. Honestly, it's exhausting. I hate it. That's what you see on Twitter is just you can't really have conversations because you have to go extreme. You either have to defend it against everything and just fanboy out on it, or you need to hate everything about it. There's no in between. I even had that moment with Hogwarts where I talk so much positive, and then I do one tweet where I mention 2 negatives, and somebody's telling me that I'm only going after negatives. I'm looking for something to talk about. Can't we live in a world where we do both? Can we talk good and bad about? I know now we're going on a tangent, but it's those kind of comments where it's just it's
pros and cons. Everything has pros and cons, and you have to be able to list them. I wouldn't necessarily call them negatives more than I say if you're making a purchase, these are the pros and these are the cons.
Yeah.
I think that we talked about Amy being a part of the game. I think you can definitely see the creativity there. That's where the creativity shines. I mentioned that the game reminded me of Warriors of Virtue, like the movie Warriors of Virtue. But another movie that this game reminds me of, and I feel like a lot of people, because I haven't seen it, The Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh, yeah. A little bit, yeah. I could see it.
Except for you going through a wardrobe, you had access to a bangle that then teleported you into this other mythical world.
Yeah.
And I love The Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah.
So like the world that they set up, I would like to see a sequel. I have to finish the game movie. I have to go out there and purchase the game, and then I have to play it. And after I play it, I will even probably make a thread of things that they could do better going forward. But I think that this is a franchise that we got to be careful with, because we can't on one hand say we're tired of them, changing pre-established IPs to do what they want to do. And then when they make a new IP, we trash it. We have to give it constructive criticism. And I think that is the absolute problem.
Yeah.
So once we can do that, I think we can go forward, and Forspoken 2 can be the game we all wanted it to be. But we have to get there first.
Yeah. Just drop that engine, honestly. We
talked about
engine,
yes.
We talked about it before we did the video, but are there talented people maybe that worked on the engine? Yeah, am I throwing them under the bus? I suppose so. That engine, historically factual, is a problem. We talked about it before. For those that don't know, maybe they're catching up. Kingdom Hearts 3 was started on this engine, and they had to change it midway through. They lost years of development. That's why it took so long. Probably the reason, actually, and that's why Kingdom Hearts 4 will take much less time. Because this engine literally ruined Kingdom Hearts 3. They couldn't do it. I think, was Final Fantasy 15 built on this as well, or was it? I don't actually remember. I mean, it's the same. I think so. Actually, now I say it, I feel like it was. Or there was one other example of this engine just not working. And that's, I guess, to be fair in another way, another reason why this engine isn't good is you actually just look at the games that weren't built on it, or the amount of games on versus not. Like, Square Enix actively doesn't even want people, seemingly, it seems like people. Final Fantasy VII is not on this engine. You know what I mean? If it was so good, and it's an in-house kind of thing, if it was so good, Square Enix would be using it, but they're not.
Yep.
So that just shows you, and that is the game feels old, the game looks old. Besides the writing, besides the characters, it just is an old-ish game. And it's that engine's fault, and I would just throw that engine as if you want to blame the engine, not even human beings, that's cool with me. Just blame the engine. So if a Forspoken 2 was made in Unreal Engine 5, fine. I think that would solve at least half of the issues that the game has, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Much agreed. I agree with everything there. I think that getting rid of that engine and just taking a few notes from, like, maybe with certain people in the community had to say about maybe certain writing choices.
Yeah.
Other than
And
that,
please just
like
let us
I
play
think you
the
got
game instead of pausing it. I don't know. I don't
and
know
that
when that became a thing. Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy. I suppose there is a lot. Well, I just played Crisis Core. There is a lot of stopping and starting in Crisis Core. You move, stop, move, stop. But Crisis Core is
Forspoken.
better
It
around the
feels
edges, I'd say. I think it
it
I think it
is.
highlights if the game is okay and you stop and start, it hurts it more than, and I actually did see people say that cutscenes get in this game's way oftentimes. And
Yep.
it's one thing if the cutscenes are really good. It's another thing if they're, and I'm not saying they're, because again, I actually think, taking a more positive approach, I actually think they're better than what those people were saying. But I think the idea
Mm-hmm.
is true. If it's a really good cutscene that really does something, you tolerate it. You put your controller down and say, all right, I'll watch. But if the cutscenes are just maybe some are better than others, but overall it's like an average thing, that's different. Then it's like, why are you even bothering stopping us?
My thing with Forspoken is it just seems like it's a game made in a past generation
Yeah.
with certain things that
I
came.
don't want to say
And
it. I don't want to say it. I want to get crushed.
I looked at that and I mean that in like not necessarily the most like not a harsh way, but what I mean is like, for example, the not letting you take control of your character. I can see if it's a cutscene, I maintain this for all games. I will watch cutscenes all day. I love cutscenes.
Yeah, same.
But when you have the character just standing there and you can't move your camera,
Yeah.
you can't move your character, but they're talking, at least giving us an option to walk while that's happening will at least allow us to make it a little bit more interactive. But I think that once again, that's a thing that happened in a different era. And this era, we've grown accustomed to certain things being a certain way. Like now we don't deal with loading screen, we deal with the crawling spaces where we just crawl in between. So
do.
it's a different thing. So it's just like when you're going back, it's jarring. And
to be honest,
I
there's something I like about, like,
yeah,
we're in, for whatever reason, the last year there has been several games, Saints Row, Forspoken, Evil West. Immediately, those are games, and I know it sounds insulting, but actually, I mean, I look at it in one way an insult, in one way not. It's a PS3 era thing. Evil West is actually a good positive, because it just has some sort of feel where, you walk down a couple things and then you fight, and it doesn't feel as grand as like a PS5, Xbox Series S and X kind of, but I actually kind of love that about it. There's actually something quite special, because the PS3 era was actually a really good era of games.
Good era.
You know what I mean? So I know it's thrown around as an insult. I think the visuals, that's the insult. When it looks like it's a game that's like 10 years old, and it is. It really is. That's the insult. But how the game it feels a little messy, but it also doesn't. The combat's probably not something you would see in 2023, but I actually kind of like that a lot. And I'm talking about Forspoken. Yeah. I really like that about Evil West. Even Saints Row, the movement of your character and the shooting, I actually didn't mind at all. It felt like PS3, but I was like, it just feels kind of like different. Like I kind of enjoy going back in a time machine. Now the rest of the game I think is bad, but there's something kind of cool to it.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Like that doesn't always have to be a negative that you're look like a game from a past era, because there's in some cases, like when we'll say Shredder's Revenge, for example, came out, right?
Yes.
That game was a game that was intended to be a love letter to that past era.
Yeah.
I would see people say like this should not be considered for Game of the Year because it doesn't look like modern game.
Shredder's Revenge?
It wasn't Shredder's Revenge,
really? Really?
They were like, it doesn't look like a modern game, and I was sitting on Twitter.
It doesn't need to do that.
Yeah, like it doesn't. It did what it intended to do. And while I don't think that Forspoken intended to go this route,
yeah,
I don't necessarily think that it's completely a bad thing in some areas. There are other areas, like I said, visuals. That's a no go. Because it all looks like you meant for it to be grander than it is.
Oh yeah.
So it looks like so it looks like it was a talent problem
Yeah.
more than anything, and that's where you don't want to get into.
You know that
But
Pokemon? I think Actman maybe did a video in this last Pokemon, and Forspoken does it. That's why I'm gonna connect them. There's a scene in Pokemon where it says like, "Look at this vast land," and it shows it, and it looks like garbage, right? And it's very funny because it's like, did they really think? Forspoken, I think it's sheep. You're like feeding sheep really early on, and it does like an over-the-top look of the pasture, and I'm telling you, it looks 15 years old. It looks so bad. And so it does the exact same thing as Pokemon. And I don't understand it. I actually don't get it. It does the same thing where it says, look at this grand. But to your point, that's their point. We want this to feel great. And you can feel the main city. It's got a lower side, a rich side. Like it's got class systems. You can tell there's lore. It's trying to be grand. They're trying to put some people down. Some people live in like the ghettos. Like that's the point. And that's cool. I like the lore. But then when you show it, it's so they're trying to be so grand, but it just it can't match it, and that was their issue, I think. And that was Pokemon's too. Is like I believe the goal is like we want this to be a big cool thing. It's just not.
And that's in 2023. And this is for those that don't know. I'm a person that values my ability to be interactive with the game over the visual.
Yeah.
So I love looking at visuals. I've told Alex this. I love snow the way he loves water. I love looking at details. I love looking at every last grain of sand. I love it. But I prefer how the game functionally plays and flows over the visuals. So for me, I'm much more forgiving of things like that, and that's probably why I have the view that I have about like Forspoken isn't as bad as everybody thinks, because I think that everybody is just thinking of a surface level opinion of it, which is how it looks. There is things wrong with it with as far as how it plays, how it functions, and things like that. But I don't think that is nearly as bad as things that we've seen come out in the last year.
Yeah.
And so when approaching it that way, I'm like, I've always been in the mindset of like, if this game is fun to play and I am enjoying it, because when you go to a movie, you're there to watch it. When you're coming to a game, you're there to play it.
Right. Yeah.
It's nice to look at it.
It's
but
different
you're there
people
to play
that it's factions. And I think again, as you're around, you see people that are into visual, and I'm kind of like I'm the exact same way as you. Some visuals can sell games to me by itself.
Yes.
But I do prefer the game needs to play. It needs to literally, you need to, if that's not good, the entire game really does. It's an age-old kind of thing. If you have a really good story and characters and horrible gameplay, I think that's worse than the other way around. If you have really good gameplay and then really bad story and characters, because at least you're playing it. And I think some games fall for, either. I think some games can get by based off of just their gameplay or just on their well, some games may want to get more by, right? Just based off their visuals. And then another thing you got to think about is time. As time moves on, these games look older. Then all you have left is everything else. You have the gameplay. I'm a big story and characters guy too, but it also depends on the game, because some games don't really care about story and characters. So then, Heavy Rain is honestly an example that I think every year becomes more. Heavy Rain at the time was just so visually beautiful, but I also think it had everything else. Now, as time goes on, that game really doesn't look good because, it's so old, but the story I still think is incredibly good. I think the emotions and the characters are fantastic. That stuff can never age. You know what I mean?
No.
Now, and there's easier ones like Akana Bridge of Spirits, I think will still be good in 10 years. Sly Cooper is still good now because it's more, the animated kind of stuff. Obviously, that's a little, not cheating, it's a style. Hi-Fi Rush, I think, is a game that'll last for a long time.
I was just about to say that.
That
I
game sold
prefer
me on
art.
its looks, but that game is just
Yep.
all around a incredible game.
That's where I prefer like I love photorealism. I love when games pull it off well. I love looking at Horizon Forbidden West. I love looking at Uncharted. I love looking
Same.
at God of War. The thing is that with those though, and the reason why, the number one reason why I always prefer art styles sometimes is because art styles don't age.
Yeah.
No matter what generation you go to. And like I said, you just said it, it's kind of cheating maybe.
Yeah.
But it's like when you see a game like that that just has an art style, you don't look at it and go, this game is out of date. Especially if it has the gameplay, you look at it and you can pick it up and you don't have a disconnect. Because I know plenty of people who will say like, well, I just can't go back to it because it's just too dated because of the way that it looks.
Yeah.
And that's a fair valid way to feel. But when you have an art style, 9 times out of 10, you don't have that problem because
Yeah.
it looks the way that it looks. It would look current day, probably with a little bit more cleaned up animation
Right.
and things of that nature, but like things that you just wouldn't notice. And I think that that's the beauty of going with an art style. And that's why I think that games could benefit going forward
Yeah.
from definitely using it.
Yeah. That's it. It's tough because I wonder what, I talk about Uncharted 4 all the time, how much I love it. It still looks really, in fact, I mean, that's a testament to Naughty Dog. I mean, the game still looks really, really good. But, in another 10 years, 15 years, and then you also think I think the gameplay is phenomenal. Will it work in 15 years when the game just looks really old? Will you be able to run around and you're shooting people and you're in the car missions and all that stuff? Like, will that work? Will the gameplay hold up? Because the gameplay is in this photorealistic world. So how will that work? I don't know. I actually don't. I feel like it will be fine. And again, I think the story, the character, Nathan Drake, that charisma, like that doesn't age. It never will. So you cannot build a game purely on looks. And those are really
No.
the tech demo things. And there's not that
The
many
best
games that do it. And I would even argue, like, I've thrown around Callisto or
I was just about to say Callisto is the perfect example because of the game. The gameplay wasn't everybody's cup of tea, we'll say, right? It wasn't everybody's. A large amount of the audience had a disconnect from the way that the game played, the way that the game functioned. Everybody said that the game looked beautiful. I even am on record. I still feel that I really enjoyed the game. It frustrated me a lot though,
yeah.
and for reasons not because it was hard, but because of things that was out of my control as a player.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where, as good as the game looks, as good as the story sometimes, was, and like the potential of where they could set things up, I was just taken out of it
Yeah.
instantly because of the gameplay and things that I was getting punished for that was out of my control.
I
And
don't, I
so
don't know if
it's one
there's
of those.
such a thing as like a pure tech demo nowadays. Like, because you could, I think Callisto is as close as you get. I think The Order 1886 is as close. But to give them a little props, again, that's why like tech demo. Again, you can use it in different ways. They're the closest you can get, but even those two examples, there are some things that they're, obviously it's beyond just a tech demo. Specifically, I'd maybe even argue The Order. I'll always have somewhat of a soft spot. I think the lore and what they were trying to go for was really there.
Really good. I
Yeah.
think it was there.
And it just wasn't fully realized or something, but that was as close to a tech demo as you can get, but they were trying to be more than it. And I think Callisto too, it's trying to be more, because I think there are some gameplay stuff, some horror stuff in Callisto I think is really good. They're going for it. So I don't, that age-old tech demo thing, I don't know. I'd like to maybe hear people's examples of like what is purely a tech demo. Even Astro's Playroom is not a tech demo. Actually, Astro's Playroom is a tech demo. It's showing off the tech of the PS5 and the DualSense controller. And yet, it's better than 90% of games.
I might send it. I'll send it to you later on today. But there is a company named Virtual Basement that's making a wrestling game, and they actively show off their tech. Like they make specific tech demos to show, and like when I say that the game, if you're talking visuals, let's compare it to WWE 2K. Visually, this game made by this smaller company looks better than
Yeah.
2K. And they put out tech demos. They tell you what the tech demo is showing before they start it. And they'll release clips like every few months. Not clips, but like the videos are like anywhere between 5 to 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty lengthy look at a tech demo, but it's something neat that they do, and it's like one of those things where I'm like, I love seeing how this works. They even show their motion capture. How, like sometimes they'll go there, put footage on their computers and show how they're doing things from point A to point B. Uh, it's a very nice insight as far as like how game development is made on that side. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that would be a tech demo that I would probably show you. You might be interested in
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because it's used as a a negative, and in a large way it is. I just don't think anybody is maybe purposely, or also they're always trying to shoot for more. Do they achieve it? No. So then we end up
No,
labeling it a tech demo.
a tech demo. Yep.
We label it that because it kind of results in that, but really it was trying to be more than it. And Callisto, yeah, I mean, to be fair, Callisto is that thing. I don't think there's a
Yeah.
game that kind of pushes it to the max, but to a lot of people maybe feels so bare bones and everywhere else. That's the closest definition you can get to it nowadays. I don't know if
It
there's
does
another.
remind me a lot of those clips.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It does. It does. So that's why I said, like, when you said it, I'm gonna have to send you this because you'll see it and you're like, it's a lot that's there.
Yeah.
I see what they're going for, but it's a lot that's missing. But the difference is that this is a tech demo for an unfinished game, and then we have Callisto Protocol. But there's a lot of things that you look at and you can compare it, and you're like, my thought process is not necessarily in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd have to agree with you there. So that's how I definitely I'm gonna send those to you.
And then next up, we got the Dead Spaces, we got the SpongeBob's of the world, we got Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, we've gone quite a while, but do you have any kind of last thoughts on anything we talked about or on those three games really fast?
I'm excited for SpongeBob. Unbelievably excited for SpongeBob. That has been a franchise that I have watched since I was younger. I've loved playing basically every game that SpongeBob has ever released. SpongeBob has a special place in my heart. I think it's one of those rare examples of blending in child humor with adult humor very subtly.
Yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy, I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, you already know. I'm in the Discord. I'm talking about it on Twitter. I'm making threads of it on Twitter.
Yeah.
My last thread didn't go to plan so well. But
it'll still blow up.
Yeah. And so I think that Hogwarts Legacy, I can't put into words how excited I am, especially as I guess I can say a lifelong Harry Potter fan. It has been around more of my life than it hasn't, like more than I haven't lived. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying like as a lifelong Harry Potter fan, this is a dream. I feel like this is very much the game that I've been waiting for. I'm trying to temper my expectations so I can judge it fairly, but it's so hard not to be excited for this.
Yeah.
So hard not to be like, I love it. I can't wait for it. What about you? Any last thoughts?
Well, Dead Space, by the time you guys are watching this video, I will have been playing it, and I can't wait. SpongeBob, I'll just say I can't wait for now. And then I don't want to say anything else. And then for Hogwarts, yeah, I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts that we're actually there. And I'm just really excited. I mean, obviously stuff has happened and all that stuff, but I'm really excited to just play it. I'm excited for games to come out after it. I think everybody's kind of everybody, actually, not even just the Hogwarts fandom. Everybody's so laser focused on Hogwarts when a month later is Jedi Survivor. Even though I'm starting to get pretty concerned about that. But I did a tweet yesterday of like, do we think it's going to maybe be the D word that we don't want to throw out, say out loud? But then somebody mentioned, well, maybe it's because of Dead Space. And I thought, you know what? That's kind of fair. I didn't think of that. Maybe they're waiting for Dead Space to come out. It would be the Warner Bros. Method, actually. You know what I mean? So we have seen it. I'd like to think that. In which case, first week of February, I know Hogwarts is, but you got to come out with something Jedi Survivor soon.
I think that they're gonna wait out Hogwarts
Oh my!
Legacy.
But
They
then you
gotta come out with
have
it
like
soon.
a month. You have 1 month if you wait Hogwarts out.
I think that they're confident though. I think that they feel like
Yeah, but this is
they've
kind of a
gotten enough
different kind of
goodwill.
confidence. God of War showed more than this. God of War
Yeah.
showed
Oh
more.
yeah. No, for sure. I think that they're in a position where you're in a tough spot. You're coming right after Hogwarts Legacy, and also you, as you just mentioned, Dead Space could be a reason as like Suicide Squad isn't showing anything because of Hogwarts Legacy.
Yep.
So you have those two factors. I think that it'll try to wait. I think it'll try to wait Hogwarts Legacy out by like a week after launch, and then I think that we'll start seeing some coverage of it because they need to go. They need to go.
It's
But
literally pedal to the metal.
I think that judging off of the goodwill that Fallen Order got and the excitement that was around when they showed that trailer at the Game Awards, I think that they're in a good position to where they feel like they don't have to. They're gonna have to market.
If it's cockiness, I like it. If it's not cocky, it's almost one of those things where it's like, I appreciate you being quiet if you're really cocky. In a way, I'd like to know, though, just so I can be sure, because there's always the delay word that could be the reason. It could be they just don't know if they're going to make it. And I just want to know.
We need that Hogwarts Legacy energy. That's what we need.
Yeah.
We need them to like every day just show us something like, just say like, listen, we're not talking because we don't want to.
Yeah.
Not because we're not. That's what we need, because it is uncomfortable right now. Not hearing anything. We got such a large info dump and then nothing. And PTSD from Gotham Knights. All right. That is what that is to me right now. Yeah. So
or even Hogwarts in the era where they didn't show anything and then it got delayed and all that stuff. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do I want to do Jedi Survivor streams specifically on the main channel, and you're more than welcome, and we'll definitely, I'm sure, have an episode just for Jedi Survivor on this show. But not to take it too far away from Hogwarts. I know I threw Hogwarts away for another game. No, I mean, it's exciting. This is what we both kind of live for. I think,
Yeah.
I love a lot of games in the past, and I think maybe the better of the gaming industry is actually in the past than necessarily the future. But there's always something magical, about these times of the year. And it's been, even though it was really only like a month and a half, we really only had like a month and a half of Dead, maybe even less. I mean, because we had Midnight Suns even, so that's not even that fair, and Callisto. So it was maybe about a month. But in that month, it just felt so lonely. And I guess maybe knowing that we're about to get like 20 games in the first 5-6 months of the year, right? 20 like legitimate games. It's just special now we're here. And some of them are legitly big. Fire Emblem we talked a lot about. SpongeBob even, Forspoken was such a hot topic. And then Hogwarts. And then even after, Atomic Heart and Jedi and Resident Evil 4 and Legend of Zelda and Suicide Squad. I mean, these are not that indie games are bad. Sometimes indie games are better than AAAs. But these are not small titles. These are like Game of the Year, big size games. Right after, sometimes a couple a month,
I think that this is probably going to be speaking for me personally, as long as everything comes out this year.
Yeah.
It's probably be one of the best games, like year for gaming ever had.
I think it'll be in the top. I've always wanted to go. I think we've talked about it before. I always want to go back. 2011, I always remember, but people will bring up different. I think 2019, somebody brought up to me in a live stream, and I looked. 2019 was a very strong year. And also or maybe it was 2018, because 2018 was
my
that was Red Dead and Spider. Okay, it was probably that year and God of War. Yeah, 2011, 2018. I feel like maybe I had another year in between them that was maybe good. You get these every like 3 to 4 years. You kind of get the year. And then you have a couple that are not so good. And we're in it. As long as you said, as long as everything actually comes out, which is not a guarantee at all.
No.
It's actually scary, even with like the recession. I really hope that
yes,
these companies like how economically okay are they right now, and then will they be able to take some hits in a couple months or a year or so? Like I am
We're gonna
worried.
find out.
The gaming industry will be hit. You know.
Yes, it's already being hit.
Yeah.
I mean, the Microsoft thing, like
Yeah.
it's already being hit badly. I think that we're gonna find out. I think we're gonna find out sooner rather than later. Honestly.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be this year. Like, well, this year
Yeah.
we'll know companies that can make it out and all that stuff for sure. Well, I love to end it on a bad note, so we'll end it on a recession. Well, that's it for this episode. Next week's episode 9. The week after is episode 10. So we've talked about maybe doing like a live thing. We do want to do a live show at some point, maybe for 10. Maybe we'll have to talk about it. But I'm sure the next while it'll probably just be the new games that were next week. We'd have Dead Space and SpongeBob to talk about. Then would we have Hogwarts? Yeah, I guess by the time we start recording, it'd be like 2 days after the deluxe edition. Yeah, so we'd be able to do Hogwarts. So we got it all planned. Any final thoughts to the men and women at home?
Thank you for supporting as always. I love that you guys always come out and support the videos. I love getting tweets saying that you watch the show, that you're always happy that we interact with you. That is the biggest goal I can have. Remember to send out questions every week, and feel free to just give me a shout, just comment. Same thing with Alex. We love interacting with you guys. We love the support.
Yeah.
It's always welcome. Thank you. You guys are the reason we do what we do, and the reason why we're here. And so thank you guys so much.
Yeah, and the episodes are growing. They're doing good. We had a bounce back the last couple, and I think with all these games coming out, it'll be more than good the next while. And like we said, maybe even live shows in the future. Well, thank you all so much for watching. We really do appreciate it, and we hope to see you all on the next one.